In the summer of 1878, at 6 Princess Street in Amherst, Nova Scotia, a close-knit family's quiet life was turned upside down by the arrival of a malevolent unseen force. The sinister presence wreaked havoc on the house's occupants. At the center of the disturbances, a 19-year-old girl, whom upon the entity fixed its attention, announcing its intent with a horrifying declaration carved into a bedroom wall. Ester Cox, you're mine to kill. Today's episode is on the Great Amhurst Mystery.
What was it? We went to the new Hy-Vee that opened up here. It's
nice.
it's like one of the biggest ones or something.
Oh, I heard about that, yeah.
So we went there, and I tend to get like disoriented, like overstimulated every once in a while.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, then I forget where I'm at on my list. I'm like, oh, that's right, and you go snap back into reality and be like, oh, I gotta get Parmesan cheese, okay. But
yeah. Was it nice?
Grocery store, huge.
Oh, I'm sure.
Nice, very nice.
Did they have like a separate cake section from like the bakery?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what I've heard the new stuff's doing.
It looked like some TLC Cake Boss stuff.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. And they had like a charcuterie. I can't ever say that word well.
Charcuterie?
Yeah, they had that, one of those, like a center, like a separate center for it.
Oh, wow.
It was really cool.
Yeah, it's like if I ever get like overstimulated like that, I just like go up and down each aisle and figure out what they need.
I have Mr. Kendra like
oh, yeah.
Give me like a pep talk.
Does he not get overstimulated like that?
No, he does, but the good thing about us is like both of us it never happens to both of us at the same time.
Oh, that's nice.
Anything bad, really? It's like either or, the scales.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So you can help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
So
you got some red wine today as your drink of choice for the podcast?
Yeah, it's actually Snoop Dogg's wine. And
is
then
it good?
I like it.
Okay.
And then on my birthday, I got Snoop Dogg's champagne. Ooh. So I drank that on my birthday.
Was it good?
No.
Oh no.
It was not good champagne.
Oh no. I'm sorry.
I don't know when this happened, probably in the last like 2 years, a year and a half, but I've really gotten into champagne.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't used to like it because all the bubbles and you couldn't drink it. Like, you'd have to wait, like sip on it. But I like that now. Like I'm not like a 21-year-old that's like, oh,
chug it back.
Yeah, chugging it back. It's like I'll sip it nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy a nice champagne, but Snoop Dogg, you need to step up.
Oh man, but his wine's good though, right?
His wine is good, and it's at a good price. Also, Martha Stewart's, she's like it's called the Hard Shard. It's a Chardonnay. That's really good.
I love the name Hard Shard.
Mm-hmm. Because she did time.
Oh.
Because she's hard.
Oh man, you have to go with your beautiful red wine. I have tea with honey and lemon.
That's way better for you.
Black tea so has a little bit of caffeine.
Way better for your skin.
I think red wine, like a glass of red wine a day, is good for your heart though, right?
I feel like it's been flip-flopped how many times. Oh, okay. I don't even pay attention to it anymore. They're like, red wine is very good for your heart muscles. And then the next week it's red wine, increases blood pressure. And, they flip-flop it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, they find a new study.
Everything causes cancer and it's going to kill you and you're going to die.
Yeah, I heard this week that apparently they found that most like 80-something% of tattoo inks can cause cancer. And like there's a mortician that when she does autopsies, they check like your lymph nodes and stuff, and those are throughout your body. So you find if you had like a tattoo like on your foot, you'll find the ink in your lymph nodes from like the upper half of your body. So like it tries to like get rid of it, but like your body can't. Yeah, so it gets stuck in your lymph nodes. The ink does. So.
Would you say 80% of ink?
It's like 80-something. I forgot. Let me check.
Is there like a specific type of ink that it doesn't do that, or?
I don't know if they figured that out yet.
Katrina's about to scare all of the listeners from getting tattoos.
I mean, do whatever you want. Like,
You
tattoos
just
are cool,
scared a
but
bunch of like little 18, 19-year-olds that just got like a, little like a little on their wrists, or, like a airplane on their legs cuz they like to travel cuz
yeah,
they've been so many places.
that's true. I mean, I don't think a little tiny one is gonna hurt you. I think it's like more so if you have like a larger scale or like if your whole arm is tatted up. I think that's more so. Let's see. Okay, so they found carcinogens in about 83% of black inks. So
Crap.
yeah, it's things like they found like mercury in some of them.
Oh, well,
What's the other one?
I mean, they can take apart my lymph nodes and look at them. I mean, how much salmon do I eat a week? I eat like a ridiculous amount.
I'll say it was good for you too, but is it not?
Mercury.
Oh, okay.
Plastics? I mean, I'm eating like a credit card worth of plastic a week as it is.
Yeah.
And there's probably add some more because I eat so much salmon, probably,
I'm
the
gonna eat the
swimming in
plastic.
it. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, there's the garbage island in the Atlantic Ocean that's, like bigger than Rhode Island or something. I mean,
Yeah, it's huge.
yeah, we're all dying. Get your little infinity tattoos on your rib cage. Go do it. Do it all day. Who cares? We're all
Yeah.
gonna die.
Yeah.
Drink my red wine,
Delicious. What a way to go.
eat some
Sipping on some red
Cheetos,
wine.
and eat a credit card worth of plastic a week. Woo.
Words to live by Kendra.
This week, mine is the Amex Platinum card.
Are we choosing like charcuterie board credit cards now?
Yeah. Well,
Just like
I
instead of
feel like
crackers,
wouldn't that
credit
be,
cards.
well, wouldn't that be more fun since I eat 52 a year, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I like every week I'm like, "Oh, it's just it's the Capital One
Gold
whatever
card
credit
or
card.
whatever.
This
Yeah.
one it's the Cashwise this next week is the I think it's more fun."
Yeah.
Oh, this week is Discover and nobody takes Discover cards. Crap.
That's true. I've gotten yelled at because we didn't take Discover.
See? Um it's the worst one.
It's so
I
expensive to charge though too. That's why they
That's what
don't
I've
have
heard.
it.
Oh,
See,
thank
beautiful.
you.
Hey Wanderers, welcome back to another Foolish Wanderers podcast, the podcast about anything and everything. Today we're rounding out our Spooktober season of 2022 with a very spooky mystery, the Amherst Mystery. We also will have an extra special Halloween episode on the 31st, so please tune in to
Yeah, it's the well, it's
the grand finale.
yeah, we have an extra grand finale that we're going to release on Halloween.
Yes.
So make sure you tune in for that.
Be extra spooky. Maybe not as spooky as this one. I'm not sure. Is this gonna be spookier?
I don't know.
Okay, maybe same level
It's
spook.
kind of funny too. I
So
kind of laughed
okay.
a little bit.
See, I think our like definitions of funny are very different.
Oh yeah,
So
different zip codes.
yes. All right. Shall we
All right.
begin?
We shall begin. Listener's discretion is advised. We do talk about a sexual assault attempt, so if any listeners find that troubling, this episode probably is not for you. So, we're going to begin this episode off with a quote from an author. Quotations around author. Who we will be talking about throughout this episode, named
Okay.
Walter Hubble.
Ooh, like the Hubble
So,
telescope?
no, not at
Oh,
all.
okay.
Not
Okay.
even close.
Okay, good.
Doesn't even have a degree.
Oh, okay.
Truth, it has been said, is often stranger than fiction. What I have written is the truth, and not fiction, and it is very strange.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm. So today we're going back to 1878 to Nova Scotia, to the town of Amherst. And it's a nice little like quiet town. It's kind of by like the water, like on the
Ooh,
coast.
pretty.
So pretty idyllic little Canadian village. So it's a Canadian mystery we're talking about today. So grab your maple syrup and your hockey sticks.
The most like stereotypical Canadian or upper Minnesotan. Right?
I don't think no, because no maple syrup. Hockey sticks, yes. No maple
Hockey, yeah,
syrup.
hockey, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe like beer.
Okay.
Okay, so this is supposed to be one of the most widely witnessed poltergeist phenomena in history. So, this occurred between 1878 and 1879, and it was the subject of an investigation by Walter Hubble. So, the guy that we did the quote at the beginning of the podcast. So, Walter Hubble was an actor with an interest in psychic phenomena who kept what he claimed was a diary of events in the house. So he later expanded this into a popular book that he did like I think like 10 different like reissues of this book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep, so today we're going to talk about Walter Hubble and more importantly Ester Cox. And these are the two people this is the two people that the story is going to revolve around.
Okay.
So, Walter Hubble wrote a book in which he stayed with the family of the phenomena for 6 weeks in 1897. So, the Amherst Mystery centers on Ester Cox, who was born in 1868 in Nova Scotia. She lived in a house with her married sister, Olive Teed, Olive's husband, Daniel, and their two young children. And a brother and sister of Esther and Olive also lived in the house, as did Daniel's brother, John Teed. So this house is full.
Yeah, sounds like
It's it's like a little clown car, but instead it's a house.
Is this like a tiny car or is it like a bigger house?
It's a cottage, so it's a
Oh, this
tiny
is.
it's a
Oh, okay.
tiny house, yeah.
Okay.
So their cottage is described as being pleasant with its interior clean, immaculate, and comfortable. So
Okay.
it's like this cute little cottage in this cute little Canadian village by the water.
So like idyllic. Like.
Yep, idyllic, yep. But on the afternoon of August 28th in 1878, 19-year-old Ester Cox went out driving with Bob McNeil. Now, when I say driving, it's not a car, it's a buggy with a horse.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, because no cars yet. So, Bob McNeil was a local, he was just a local young guy.
Okay.
I literally put a local young man.
Okay.
Do you see that sentence? It just says a local young man.
Yeah. It's just.
It's so stupid. Bob, okay, so she's out with Bob, and Bob suddenly pulled the buggy over in a remote area and pointed a revolver at Esther,
Why would I?
commanding her to get out of the buggy.
No.
Unsure of what nefarious plans Bob had in store for her, Esther was terrified and refused. Esther's refusal made him increasingly irate, but luckily she was saved by the sounds of another wagon approaching in the distance. Yeah. Fearing being caught, Bob put away the revolver and drove Esther back home. So I did also read that it started to rain on the way back home, and just to be like a dick, he didn't pull like the little buggy like the roof over,
Oh.
so he just like let it rain on them. So she came back like soaking wet.
Oh.
So obviously this left Esther in great distress, and it was very, very traumatic.
Well, yeah.
And also I read that Bob was said to have left Amherst shortly after the incident, but was still alive in 1879. So
Hmm.
yeah, so Esther's family never really liked Bob and assumed that they had just gotten into an argument and broken up, because Esther just came home crying and ran upstairs and didn't want to talk about it.
So did she ever tell them like what
Um,
actually happened?
so Esther didn't reveal to them that Bob threatened her, and her family didn't pry. They just sort of thought like, oh, she's 19 years old. They got into like an argument, and it's just young love, and this is what happens.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, Esther goes into like the week after the incident, she goes into like a kind of like a deep dark depression. She's crying really down, goes to bed early,
No.
but then she snaps out of it. But then, within a month after her frightening attack, mysterious events at the Teed cottage started happening. Esther's sister Jane, whom she shared a room with, said Esther was convinced that a mouse was running under her bed covers, like running on her body at night.
Oh.
And they would like look for the mouse, but there was no mouse.
Oh man.
So shortly after this, like other things started happening. So the following night, what they thought was a mouse again was making rustling sounds like all throughout their room. and the sounds were coming from a patchwork box under their bed. So they moved the box to the center of the room, and they were going to open it, but then the box began to levitate. And it started levitating like a foot off the ground, and then it would drop.
Oh, man.
And it did this another time and then dropped. So the two sisters began screaming, and then their brother-in-law Daniel came running in the room.
Oh,
He insisted they must have dreamed it, or they both had like the same delusion at the exact same time.
that's possible. Like,
Yes, like because it's like, well, what the heck is gonna haunt a patchwork box?
what
It's
is a
like
patchwork box? Is it just like a.
it's like your old jeans that are all
Okay.
messed up that you like cut, to put like pieces of fabric that you're able to put make into a patch to cover
Oh,
something, right?
okay. So it's just like a box of patches.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So haunted patches, because that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
So he just dismissed it. So, but the next evening, Esther started to feel ill and decided to go to bed early. Jane, her sister, was later woken up by Esther jumping out of bed and yelled that she was dying. Jane then lit a lamp and noticed Esther looked odd. This is a quote from Jane. Her short hair almost standing on end, her face blood red, and her eyes looking as if they would start from their sockets, while her hands were grasping the back of a chair so tightly that her fingernails sank into the soft wood.
Mm.
Esther's account was that she was so swollen she felt like she would burst, and her skin had become incredibly hot to the touch.
Is there any medical explanation for that, or is it just.
We're gonna
Oh,
kind of get
okay.
into it a little bit. I mean, this is 1878, so before like electricity.
Yeah.
The rest of the family would also agree that it did look like Esther was going
Okay.
to burst.
Oh,
Then so they're all in the room, they're trying to help her out, and then all of a sudden they all heard a loud thunderclap type sound. And it was so loud that Olive, the older sister, went to check if lightning had struck the house. But when she looked outside, it wasn't even storming. Then there were three more loud noises that all seemed to come from under the bed.
no.
Then Esther's swelling left and her temperature returned to normal, and she was able to go to sleep.
You just go to sleep after that?
Yeah, I don't know how
Like,
she did it. Must have been so exhausted.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, okay.
hmm So a few days passed, and Esther seems to be back to normal until the fourth night, when just before she goes to sleep, the same thing happens. Her sister Jane tells her to try to lay down and relax, but as soon as Esther tries this, the bed sheets fly off and land in the corner of the room. I kind of wish, like, when I was unmaking the bed, like taking the sheets off, that would happen to me.
Like a helpful ghost.
Oh, it would be so nice.
That part, yeah.
hmm So again, Jane screams, and the family comes rushing into the room. The bed sheets are put back on the bed, and they again fly off.
You're supposed to make the bed. Wash these.
The family then sit on top of the covers to try to prevent them from flying away. I thought that's pretty funny.
That is funny.
Like, they're
Yeah.
just like fed up. They're like, okay, we're just gonna
It's like,
sit here and try to weigh ourselves down. So,
like, stop it, ghost.
stop it, ghost. But Esther's pillow flies up and hits John. So that's her brother-in-law's brother.
Okay.
I'm sorry, this house is so full.
Yeah.
It hits John in the head. So John then just was fed up and he runs out of the room.
I
And
probably would have done that before a pillow hit me in the face,
oh
to be
yeah, I would have
honest.
thrown like a crucifix at her and been like, "Bye, I'm going on vacation."
Yo, see you later.
So again, loud noises come from what sounded like under the bed. So the noises start and then they stop, and then Esther's swelling goes away and everything's back to normal.
Weird.
Yep. So the next day, the family has like a little meeting and they decide that they need to get some help. They don't know
Yep.
what to do. So, probably like a logical thing is to find like a priest or something. I don't
Well,
know.
when your sheets are flying across the room, yes.
A priest,
Yeah.
exorcist person, a scientist. I don't know.
Yeah.
So the family decides they're just going to call like their local doctor.
He'll know
So
what to do.
Yep, so Local doctor named Dr. Karit was called to the Teed cottage several days later to examine Esther's strange symptoms. He said she seemed like she had just like recently gone through shock, and he diagnosed her with nervous excitement.
Anxiety?
No, because she's like in shock, so I don't know if that's like
Okay.
worse, because the body like the body like will go into shock, so he
Yeah.
could tell that there was remnants
Okay.
of that, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know, 1878 medicine. So yeah, so the doctor said he agreed that he would stay at the home until 1 a.m. and he seemed pretty skeptical about what was happening with Esther until he watched as the pillow under her head moved on its own and like flew up. At this time, John like caught the pillow.
That doesn't like John,
Doesn't
apparently.
like John.
Poor
And
John.
then John said it felt like an invisible force was holding the pillow, like a resistance.
Oh, no.
And so like this whole scene is playing out, right?
Uh-huh.
And the doctor seems very chill from what was happening, and he's like walking around like searching like what, like kind of like skeptical, like what is this? I'm looking for wires, I'm looking for lights, I'm
It's a
looking for a
normal
smoke
Tuesday.
machine. And the loud noises started, and it seemed to follow the doctor from underneath the floorboards.
Oh,
So every time he would walk, the noises would come up from under the floorboards.
oh, I hate that. No.
Yep.
Ew.
Then, this gets even creepier, Katrina. Here we go.
Okay.
Then, above the bed, Esther's bed, letters started to etch themselves into the wall. And it read, Ester Cox, you are mine to kill.
Great. That's comforting.
Yep. Then pieces of plaster flew off the wall, and the banging sound started.
Oh,
They
no.
eventually stopped after 2 full hours. So this is the longest that the banging noises went.
Why would you still be in the house?
I don't know. The
Like,
doctor.
who just
I
sits
don't
there
know.
when
I
all
don't
this
know.
is happening?
I have no clue. The doctor left, and then he's like, I'm just gonna return the next morning to like check on Esther, okay?
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Yep. So he comes back, and the next morning he prescribed Esther with a sedative to either like help treat this or that she could at least get some rest.
I mean, at least, yeah, at least get some sleep. But,
He's like,
like,
just gonna knock her out.
who's gonna solve it? It's
Hmm.
yeah.
I'm gonna
But
give her so many sedatives that the ghost is even gonna get sedated.
they're just connected at this point.
Yep. So, yeah, so that didn't help Esther at all. And the noises were getting louder. They started lasting longer. And they seemed to move like to the roof. So from under her
Oh,
bed, they like moved to the roof somehow. And
weird.
sometimes they even happened during the day.
Yeah, that's even scarier because you expect it at night, but not
Not in the
so much in
day.
the
Yep.
daytime.
So they start in the day, and then after a few weeks, no, after a few weeks, word starts to go around town that something odd was happening in that cottage because it's like the family didn't tell any of their friends or neighbors about what was happening to Esther. But I mean, once loud noises start going in the middle of the day,
Yeah.
everyone's like, what's happening?
Was this like a secluded cottage, or was it that they had neighbors
No, they
that could
had
hear?
neighbors.
Oh yeah, so yeah, they're gonna.
It's
You're
like
not
in
just
like the town, yeah.
yeah. It's like you're not just hanging a few pictures. This is like a full
Uh-huh.
construction zone at this
Yeah,
point.
I would just say I'd be like, the house is settling. It's just settling.
Oh yep.
It's old.
It's just
It's just
falling into
settling.
the
Yep.
falling into the lake.
Okay, so a few weeks after the doctor's first initial visit, Esther had a spasm or like a type of seizure
Oh,
while the doctor was there one night, and she went into a trance-like state and told the doctor what had happened with Bob McNeil.
oh,
There are a few instances where she goes into this like trance and doesn't remember what happens or what she says. So around the same time, Esther's sister Jane has an idea that whatever this entity is that makes the noises, it can also understand them. So they decide to test her theory by asking it like a yes or no question. Then and like asking it to knock how many times for yes, how many times for no. So
okay.
like any weird travel channel ghost show
Yeah,
that you watch,
that's
right?
pretty standard now. Yeah.
Yep, pretty standard. Um so they asked it, how many people are in this room? So 5 knocks would follow, which was correct. So Jane is right. It does know what they're saying.
That makes it worse, too.
Yep, that makes it so much worse.
Oh.
It's like, oh my gosh, it understands me. So the family also realizes that the strange things were only happening when Esther was home, and it was peaceful when she was gone.
So, time for Esther to move.
You were so
I'm
quick
sorry,
to just
but...
kick her out. You're just like, kick her to the curb. Here's your suitcase.
Well,
Grab your crap.
did it, like, follow her if she left? Or was it just...
We're gonna get into it.
Oh, okay.
You
I
ask
have
so
some
many good questions that, I'm
I
going
have
to
so
get
many
to.
questions. Okay.
Okay, so neighbors, friends, and townspeople alike witnessed these strange happenings around Ester Cox, and they were widely reported in the local news. The Amherst Gazette published several accounts by locals. The house had a constant flow of visitors and looky-loos now, because it was just spreading all over the place, and everyone was like, hey, why does that weird girl swell?
So, it's not the ghost, it's just her swelling.
Yeah, it's just her
Oh.
swelling.
Oh.
So, in December of that year, Esther was diagnosed with diphtheria, and during this time, she was on bed rest for like 2 weeks.
So not good if she's...
Not good. But all paranormal activity ceased.
Weird. Okay.
Yep. So, after she recovered, Esther then went to visit a friend in New Brunswick. Back in Amherst, the family decided they were going to like move around the furniture, like reorganize the house, and they put Esther into a new room, thinking that maybe this would help stop the poltergeist.
I mean,
maybe.
maybe.
Yeah, it's like you're desperate at this point, right?
Yeah, figure out something, yeah.
You would try anything. You're going to throw salt over your shoulder and,
Yeah, surround the house in salt.
Yeah, surround the house in salt, get rid of all the black cats, I don't know, replace the mirrors. I have no idea what else you're supposed to do. Burn sage, throw a chicken at the wall. I don't really know, but they
throw a chicken? I've never heard that.
That's not one I just came up with.
Okay.
But like, it might be one.
Okay.
So on Esther's first night back, a voice whispered in her ear that it was going to set the house on fire.
Yay.
Jane, yeah, great. So Jane was telling the family about the threat of fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then while she's telling them this, a match was said to fall from the ceiling onto the bed. So a match just appeared out of thin air, fell from the ceiling onto the bed. It was quickly put out, but then it was followed by 8 to 10 more. So the family was all of them were quickly trying to put out these little fires that were starting from these falling matches.
I'm sorry.
It's
terrifying,
funny.
But it's kind of funny.
It's really funny.
Just the thought of it's just playing with them. It's like
a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a video game.
It kind of is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so things have just gone from bad to worse because now the ghost has discovered fire, which is
I have discovered fire.
Not a good thing, Katrina. It's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
Okay, so another fire began to start during the day this time when only Esther and Olive were home. But this one started in the cellar.
Oh.
And it was eventually put out because Esther and Olive ran around outside screaming for help from people. So it was put out, but I mean that's terrifying as well, right?
Yeah. But that's kind of, this is weird on my part, but that's kind of where I thought it would start, rather than just dropping a bunch of matches in front of them where they're going to be put out,
Then instead of teasing them, it was just going to be ominous, start
yeah, just in the kitchen or something. It would just start, not dropping little things.
Testing their agility skills.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so this fire in the cellar was eventually put out, but shortly after the fire, a ghost appeared to Esther and insisted that if she did not leave the house, it would set the loft on fire and burn them all to death. Subtle way.
Okay.
Yep, okay. So the family knew that Esther had to leave,
Mm-hmm.
but who would house a girl and her arsonist ghost? So it's either she's a pyromaniac, or she's innocent and then the ghost is a pyromaniac, right?
Yeah, that's
who
Yeah.
follows her around.
It discovered fire and now is very enthralled and needs
Yeah,
to
so it's
start
like,
little fires.
yeah, so who's going to hose her?
To
Well,
hose
they
her or
found a
house her?
suck. What?
I thought you said hose. Who's gonna hose her?
That too. But no, who's gonna house this girl with her arsonist ghost? So
Fair.
they were able to find a sucker in John White, who was a neighbor, and he was
Oh.
really sympathetic.
Oh. Thank you,
And
John.
everything was like quiet for about 2 weeks, but soon the previous pattern began to repeat. So first the ghost began to make contact with Esther in the White home. Then, like, one of them was kind of funny, like how it started again. Like it was like innocent stuff.
Okay.
Like she had like a brush, and then all of a sudden like the brush like went to the ceiling, and then it just like dropped on her head. Like,
It's
but
like
then
child's play stuff.
yeah, child
Like,
stuff. But
okay.
then the fire started. In the fear of losing his home to a fire, John White convinced Esther to accompany him to work at the dining saloon. Still, the ghost followed her and showed off its abilities to many guests and strangers.
I
At
feel so
one,
bad for Esther at this point because she just like,
this
what
poor
did she
girl.
do? Like,
What did she do? Yeah, she didn't do
yeah,
anything wrong.
no.
At one point, a knife belonging to John's son was taken from his hands and instantly stabbed Esther in the back twice.
What the heck?
Afterwards, the knife was locked away in the cash register at White's Dining Saloon.
Okay. What?
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
just like, what?
it's you're just like not gonna go to the police, just hide it
Yep.
in the cash register.
Yeah, they're like, we're just gonna lock it away.
It goes to
And
jail.
then the cash register starts smacking Esther in the back of the head.
Let me
Um,
free.
But after this escalation of events, Esther moved around several times, back to the Teed home where she was from,
Hmm.
and then to the homes of neighbors. But the ghost followed her wherever she went.
Hmm.
Each time the events began to spiral out of control with fires or violent acts, and Esther would be asked to leave in order to prevent irreparable damage or other serious consequences.
Oh.
So, like, you can't blame these people.
But yeah, like no one's like except for the
Yeah,
ghost is to blame.
the
She's just
ghost is an arsonist, like psychopath. It's crazy.
yeah. It used to be like a crime fighter thing. Like you stay like in an evil person's house and it has a reason to burn the place down, right?
Okay, so in late March, Esther spent some time in St. John, New Brunswick, where she was investigated by some local gentlemen with an interest in science.
Hmm.
By now, several distinct spirits were apparently associated with Esther and communicating with onlookers via knocks and rappings. So, Bob Nickel, the original ghost, claimed to have been a shoemaker in life, and others identified themselves as Peter Cox, a relative of Esther's, and Maggie Fisher. So, after the visit to St. John, Esther spent some time with the Van Ambergs, friends with a peaceful farm near Amherst, and then returned to the Teeds cottage in the summer of 1879, whereupon the pneumonia broke out again.
Phenomena.
Oh, yeah, that's not pneumonia.
Pneumonia.
Put that at the end. I read phenomena as pneumonia.
It's like where did pneumonia come in? Like this,
It
this story I
didn't.
don't know.
I read it that way.
Okay.
Okay, so whereupon the phenomena broke out again. It was at this point that Hubble, oh my gosh. It was at this point that Walter Hubble arrived, attracted by the publicity surrounding the case, and moved into the Teed cottage from June until August. So so basically, she went to this place where all these like scientist occult people were, and they found out that there's a bunch of spirits inside of her, supposedly. So it's great.
It's great.
And she's now desperate, and they're trying to find help. And this guy named Walter Hubble decides that, oh, I can help.
So
I'm an expert. And
have
he
they?
decides to move in.
Makes sense. But have they gone to like any priest or anything?
Not to my. Wait, okay, so there was a guy, I think he was like a Baptist something something,
Okay.
Dr. Baptist so and so. I think his last name was Clay or something like that. But
Okay.
he basically he thought all he could come up with was that somehow Esther is attracting electricity. Like she's charged by electricity. That's all that he
Oh,
could
so
come up
like the
with.
ghosts are getting energy from her.
No, that there are no ghosts, but that she is like
Oh.
attracting electricity.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Huh.
Okay, so back to Walter Hubble. So Hubble believed he was an authority of, quote, elusive effects that stage performers like himself would use to entertain and trick audience members into believing performed magic acts. So, with a background in professional acting, he believed he would be able to decipher any trickery afoot or deception tactics being used in the widely reported Amherst haunting and expose the mystery to be a fraudulent act put on by the afflicted family. So he basically was just like a traveling performer, heard about this in the papers, thought, I could probably help since, I'm a professional actor.
Or like debunk it or
Yeah,
whatever.
and try to debunk it.
Mm-hmm.
So he claims that he started witnessing paranormal activity within the first 5 minutes of entering the house when his umbrella that was by the door moved unexpectedly.
I mean, that could also be the wind, or like it just wasn't set up right. But yeah, you know,
Yeah, that's what I thought
ghosts.
too.
Okay.
But Hubble also describes witnessing moving objects, fires, and items appearing from nowhere. He also claimed to have witnessed attacks on Esther with pins and other sharp objects, and to have seen her in several of her fits of extreme swelling and pain. He communicated with various named spirits by rapping, so the knocking, not like rapping like verse, not like that at all.
Okay.
And he enlisted 3 others, Mary Fisher, Bob Nickel, and Eliza McNeil, who were also manifesting themselves as part of events. It is worth mentioning that the chief ghost, sharing several traits in common with Esther's attacker, would come to be known as Bob. During the 3 months Walter Hubble spent observing these events, he was unable to come to any firm conclusions in his attempt to supplement the supernatural explanations with more mundane reasoning. So Hubble's theory was that the astral body of Bob McNeil had been tormenting Esther at the behest of the demon called Bob Nickel. So Hubble believed that after the attack, the demon attached itself to Esther instead and was the most active spirit.
So Bob was like projecting himself to like torture her?
Yeah, so he thinks that like Bob McNeil was possessed by a demon and that's why he attacked her, and then somehow the demon was able to attach itself to Esther instead of Bob.
Okay.
And that the demon that the demon, because the demon's name is Bob Nickel, and remember her attacker Bob McNeil.
Very similar.
So very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You gotta have like that
So you're not believing it?
that meme where it's like,
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
So with Hubble's professional help,
Mm-hmm.
Ester Cox embarked on a speaking tour, attracting audience who paid to see her and him tell her story. However, she was met with some hostile reactions, and after she was heckled one night and a disturbance broke out, the attempt was abandoned. So I mean, like it's kind like it kind of seems like a dumb thing to even try.
Just telling your story, or
No, because if the ghost follows her and you don't
yeah,
control the ghost,
yeah.
you're just kind of like waiting for something to happen, and then like you don't know what might happen. Like maybe the theater will just burst into
But
flames.
I mean, like, I guess too, with part of like the excitement with going to see her and like hear her stories, that there might be something to prove that happens, like that proves that this actually does follow her around. So I suppose like that would be something too. Like if you're aware of the story, you're like hoping to see something happen.
Hmm. But nothing did, and she was heckled off stage. And then like
Uh,
I read that there was like a mob in one of the towns that they stayed in, and they threw like rocks and bricks at them.
oh, why?
I don't
This
know.
poor girl just can't catch a
I
break.
thought Canadians are supposed to be nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they decided not to do that anymore, and she returned to Amherst once more, working for a man named Arthur Davison. Sometime later, Hubble wrote to Esther's family to discover her fate and learned that Esther had been implicated in a barn fire in Amherst later that year. Because of her location in relation to the barn and outbuildings, which were totally destroyed by the fire, Ester was arrested and eventually convicted and sentenced to 4 months in jail for arson.
So are we sure that it's not just Esther, like, herself that's an arsonist?
I mean, are we sure? No.
Okay.
So she was released after a month and did not experience further poltergeist activity. So the ghost is gone.
It completed its mission. It lit something on fire and destroyed something. So
So by 1882, she seemed to have finally moved on from the hauntings, and she was married and had a son, and the ghost no longer bothered her from that point on. And I think she died in 1912 at the age of like 52, married
oh wow,
twice, had 2 kids with one of each husband, and
oh
that
wow,
was her life. And she moved to Massachusetts somewhere. So
it's kind of far away.
yeah.
Okay.
So Walter Hubble, after meeting Esther, he wrote his book, The Great Amherst Mystery, which I think you can still buy. It's been
Oh,
released, I don't know how many different times, but made a lot of money off of that. I think
oh,
that's
I'm
his
sure.
most famous book. Walter Hubble had arrived in Amherst committed to disproving the haunting as a hoax because of his personal experience with individuals fraudulently claiming to be in touch with the spiritual world. However, he reports in the end that he came to believe that ghosts were indeed real.
I
From
mean,
what? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, you're good. So, like, I mean, if you're living in a house for months with this, like, poltergeist, like, I mean, I would think ghosts were real at that point.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty solid evidence, not just your umbrella falling over.
And I'm going to leave you with this one quote from his book, okay?
Okay.
So, from what I saw and heard in the haunted house, I have been led to infer that the ghosts of the dead live in a world similar to ours, and that it is to them just as material as our world is to us.
Ooh, spooky music. What was that?
The knocking and the rapping, I think.
Did you get a ghost from
I'm
this?
gonna get my ass haunted now.
A ghost?
Yep, so that was the Great Amherst Mystery. Ooh.
See, like, I've heard the name, but I don't think I've ever heard the whole story.
It's good, isn't it?
It's pretty good, yeah. I mean, not for Esther. I feel bad for Esther, but
I feel so bad for poor little Esther. Sources, of course, Wikipedia. I did get some excerpts from The Great Amherst Mystery, the book by Walter Hubble.
ooh.
Other good places that I used. Is that it?
Others, nope. We're done.
Okay, it's called Circulating Now from NLM.gov.
The government website.
Yeah.
Spooky.
Yeah, so that's all I got for.
All right, Wanderers, thank you so much for listening and joining in on our second to last episode of Spooktober 2022. We hope you guys enjoyed and got some little spooks. If you have any suggestions for any future episodes, please feel free to email us at fwplisteners@gmail.com.
And as always, new episodes of the FWP are released weekly from wherever you get your podcast from, and including this place. And if you'd like to support us, please consider leaving a 5-star review. It helps us get into the algorithms, and we greatly appreciate it.
Yes. All right, Wanderers, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.